feel like I'm starting to sound like a broken record when I say that I think California has more to offer than any other place. It's got 840 miles of coastline, 33 million acres of forest, 9 national parks, over 4,700 wineries. I mean, mountains, rivers, lakes, deserts, dunes, you name it, it's got it. But because California is so immense, there's still a lot of shit left to see. Still on my list is Yosemite, the Eastern Sierra, Alabama Hills, Death Valley, Salton Sea. But recently I was fortunate enough to check one off my list. Big Sur. Let's go to California. I don't even know how to pronounce this word, so I'm not going to try. It means the frustration of photographing something amazing when thousands of identical photos already exist. The same sunset, the same waterfall, the same curve of a hip, the same close-up of an eye, which can turn a unique subject into something hollow and pulpy and cheap, like a mass-produced piece of furniture you happen to have assembled yourself. This word comes from the Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows, which, if you've never heard of but struggle to find the right word to express what you can otherwise never convey, you should check it out. They create words that describe these emotions that we feel that just don't quite have an official definition for. I've seen countless photos of this sliver of coastline in California, which I've never been able to visit, but I've always kind of been drawn to, like so many other places. On the flight, I kept seeing this man in front of me peer out of his window. And like me, he kind of would intently stare at whatever piece of America was slowly passing beneath us. And then it hit me, this weird-ass word that perfectly encapsulates almost every photograph I ever take. How can I photograph the same thing that so many masterful photographers have captured countless times before me? I can't. There's only so few vantages, and if you're lucky enough to beat the fog, what will be the thing that sets my image apart from everyone else's, specifically when I'm capturing the same subject at the same time of day, surrounded by dozens of other people, all using their phones? And don't misunderstand, I'm doing this solely for myself. I'm not getting paid to shoot film in California, so for me to be able to justify it financially in my head, I've got to at least try to find a different way. I just don't know what that way is. And I thought about letting this go and just being a bigger person, but to the guy that called me a whiny twat in my last video, fuck you, buddy. These are my videos. I'll whine all I want. Got into San Francisco pretty late, and after dinner, it was pitch black by the time we made it to the Airbnb. And from the pictures, it looked awesome. And all things considered, it was pretty fucking cool. Woke up on Texas time, made some coffee, and I don't know, there's just something different about waking up in a place like this. The property is a tiny house on an 8-acre working farm, chickens, goats, 4 dogs, and an orange grove, all overlooking Monterey Bay in the distance. If it weren't for my citrus allergy, every single one of those oranges would have been gone by the time I left. The host said, "Help yourself," and it was almost worth the risk. The notes from the host said that one of the dogs, Kane, the large German Shepherd, likes to put your fist in his mouth, but don't worry, he hasn't taken one off yet. They were good boys. Boy and girl. They were good dogs. I only brought one film stock with me on this trip, Kodak Portra 400. In trying something a little different, I decided to push every roll of film in development. And for those unfamiliar, pushing film means that it spends a little bit more time in the chemical bath in development. And if done right, meaning if I shot it in a manner that was intended to be pushed in post, effectively the bright areas become brighter. The shadows more or less stay the same. It adds contrast and grain to the finished film. I normally don't push my film in post. I'd rather just expose in camera. But I thought, why not risk just fucking it all up? Once the film was loaded, it was time to head south to Big Sur. We tried to time it so that by the time we arrived, the fog would have burnt off. Tried to anyway. If I'm not driving, I've got a bad habit of spotting random things on the side of the road that I want to stop and photograph, but I end up making passive comments about not being able to. Like, I'll watch it pass and then just kind of be like, hopefully it'll be there when we come back. And then I'll just stare silently out of the window. I made us turn around because I saw a garbage chair on the side of the road. Got it. With no more roadside refuse to distract me, finally headed south. The closer we got to Monterey, the foggier and foggier it got. And don't get me wrong, I fucking love the fog, just not when I'm trying to photograph a bucket list destination on film that needs a lot of light, or just good light. It just needs light. Highway 1 hugs the cliffs. So parking at a state park or even a good vantage point is purely dumb luck. If you're lucky enough to find one of those scarce parking lots like the one we did at McWay Waterfall, there's only like 13 spaces. And it kind of makes you feel obviously like you're very fortunate to be there at the perfect time when somebody's pulling out. But it also kind of makes you feel like those people who fight over Christmas presents at Walmart. I was also trying to temper my expectations with how much fog there was, knowing I probably wasn't going to be able to see what I came to see. The pathway down to the viewing area of McWay Waterfall is a narrow tunnel, and there's no beach access. And every couple steps you can kind of catch a little glimpse of this spot I've been dying to see in person for years. When you finally make it, it's this very tiny, cramped overlook. And fuck, so many people. Not just a lot of people, a lot of very inconsiderate people, which was an unfortunate theme throughout this entire trip. I don't have any problems waiting to take my turn to take a couple photographs. However, it was painfully apparent that very few other people at any other place I visited actually gave a shit about anyone else. Like, who the fuck brings a drone to such a remarkable place, flies it in such a manner that it gets in everyone's fucking shot, but then has the drone pointed not at the gorgeous scenery, but back at themselves, like a group of 8 dudes taking fucking drone selfies, fucking up everyone else's experience. Saw a couple other vantage points that I'm sure would have been gorgeous if you could have actually seen them. But the fog. I was starting to feel like Big Sur was already a bust and we weren't even there for 2 hours. So we stopped for some really good bread and really good beer at this little art gallery cafe thing. The bread was really, really good. Got back on the road, headed north, and it was kind of like every corner you turned, the curtain of fog was pulled back a little bit more. And finally, starting to get some sunlight, I was very eager to take some pictures. First thing I saw were cows, so pull over. This is the Big Sur I was hoping to see. It almost doesn't even feel like you're here. But then the people, just like the waterfall earlier, you kind of had to jockey for position. And fingers crossed that you didn't have fucking influencers in the wild creeping into your frame. I'm all for getting your shot, but don't be an inconsiderate piece of shit because you want to get yours. And I know I sound harsh, but grow up. I'm not necessarily trying to publicly shame anyone in particular, but I think the attitude of, fuck you, I got mine, go get your own, is a big problem. And not just in photography or sightseeing, but to me, it's the equivalent of holding the door open for somebody. I always make an attempt to hold the door for everybody. And I sure as shit notice when it is not held open for me. And I could have made this video without any footage or reference to these people or the experiences, but honestly, what good would that have done? At least this way, I can bitch about it. It's my video. I'm done. God, no, I'm not. Woke up to fog so thick it kind of sounded like rain, but it wasn't raining. The plan for the day was a winery or two and then some redwoods. First, the rest of that really fucking good bread and this insanely delicious cultured butter that had flowers in it. after a quick pit stop at a winery, headed south towards Santa Cruz to Henry Cowell Redwood State Park. I've never seen bigger trees in my life. Even growing up in Washington, where there are some very big trees. Holy shit. I couldn't take 20 steps without having to stop and gawk at another tree, an even bigger tree. And the way the sun sort of leaked in through the canopy cast this gorgeous golden glow on the forest floor. I just had to be patient enough to wait for it. So here's the thing. I'm kind of torn about it. I think that state parks and especially national parks are the most neglected, undervalued, and underappreciated things we have. But during the pandemic, there was this sort of resurgence of people reconnecting and rediscovering the outdoors and visiting our parks. And I think that's fucking great. Being able to learn more and experience these things firsthand is a gift. But with this massive influx of people comes an influx of problems. With more people come more litter, more noise, more foot traffic, and more inconsiderate assholes that completely ignore you and what you're trying to do. Just kind of wandering into your shot, not moving, and then turning around and waving at you like they just fucking moved in. And don't misunderstand. I know this isn't my park. My name is not on it. It belongs to all of us. But very few people treat it like they are the precious resources that they are. And maybe people should treat it like they're theirs. Maybe they'd take better care of it. And honestly, parents, places like this are not dog parks for your kids. If they can't behave, then back on the leash. Or just take them camping.
Oh my God. Are they serious?
Let's get out of their way, guys.
Waiting for the light. Oh, this is much more.
Fuck yeah. I'm sure any photographer knows that when you are really trying to capture a photograph and you're racing the light, shit needs to move like now. I didn't say a word to anyone. I didn't gesture. or ask anyone to move because, again, it's just as much theirs to experience as it is mine. But being as frustrated as I was, I figured the best thing to do was just cut my losses and move on. I wanted to load one more roll of film just in case I saw anything on the way out that I might have missed. Once I was all loaded up, made eye contact with this guy. He looked a little familiar, but before we could even pass one another, he points at me and just stops and says, "You look familiar." Yesterday. Turns out, the day before, 90 miles to the south, as we were leaving the waterfall, we stopped to let these two guys get their shots. These were the two guys. So naturally, I asked if I could take their portrait, and they obliged. On the last night, the rain finally came in. Then it was up early to head to the airport to be met with a 5-hour delay. As lame as it sounds, it's kind of hard to rain on the parade of views like this, though.